Hi there everyone, it's Mindy from My Creative Scoop and I'm back with another Copic marker tutorial for Ellen Hutson. Today I'm going to be sharing with you how to color this beautiful stamp called Mondo Chrysanthemum, and I'm going to be using some orangey shades so that way it can kind of represent fall. So let's get started. Okay, so for this chrysanthemum I'm going to only be using three colors, E33, YR04, and Y17. We're going to go ahead and start with the Y17, and I'm going to show you how I color each of these little petals. So all of these center ones right here, we're just going to go ahead and fill them in with the Y17. And then we're going to move out. We'll color a couple at a time so that way it's not so much on for just one. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to finish filling in all of the surrounding petals. So we'll just finish all of these, the littler ones, before we move on to the larger ones. Okay, let's finish filling that in. So now I'm going to go ahead and take my E33 and I'm going to add a little bit of a shadow. So right here, this part of the top of the petals there, that's where it's kind of curling over. So this part underneath, we want it to have a little bit of a shadow because this part's coming up over and it's kind of curling. So that's the kind of look that we're going for. So all these parts right underneath, we're going to add that little bit of a shadow. So this very center ones here, you just want to add a little bit of dark in between each of those little petals. And then like for this one, and as we move farther up in the flower, you're going to be able to see it a little bit better. Because right now it just kind of looks like a mess. And it's really hard to see, especially with all these little lines, and there's just so much definition. So we'll go ahead and add that little bit of brown, and then we're going to take the YR04. And I'm going to go back over that brown and the Y17. So all the way up to the bottom part right before it starts to curl. So that way it looks like it's orange, and by adding that brown, it's deepening the shadow for us just a little bit more so we can get a little more definition. And then we'll go back through a little bit of the brown that we added in between those the little tiny petals in the center. Okay, so let's go back with our Y17. And I'm going to color a couple of the larger petals again. So it's easier when you're coloring something with a lot of the same thing and it's just very repetitive, it's easier to go ahead and fill in, and color a couple petals at a time. So that way you're not going back and forth, and just putting down a little bit of color. Now it is better if you want to color one or two full petals, and you can go ahead and break it down where you're just doing the Y17 and then going down E33 and then YR04. Just do one petal at a time just until you get the routine down, and that way you have the way that it looks and stuff, and then you can go ahead and color a couple more petals at a time. So now I'm going to take my E33 and do the same thing. We're going to create that darker shadow right at the bottom. This part here is where it's going to be a little bit lighter. So this bottom part is where we want to add that shadow. And then we're going to take the YR04. That way it really looks like those petals are twisting and turning, and we get a little bit more definition by adding that brown. And then we're going to go back with the Y17. So let's go ahead and color a couple more petals at a time. And then we're going to take that E33. So coming up from the bottom, and as you get some more color down, you'll be able to tell how the petals are laying, and that way you can see a little bit more of the definition of the flower. So now I'm going to take my YR04, cover up that brown, and then we can go ahead and color a few more petals. So I'm going to go ahead and I'll do one more section with you, and then I'm going to finish it on my own, and I'm going to show you how I put together my card, because this is going to end up being a 35-minute video of coloring the same thing over and over. So I just like to do, when I'm coloring flowers, just do a portion of it if it's really defined like this flower is. All right, and then back with the brown with the E33, and we're just going to give a couple little flicks going up to deepen that part of the petal that goes down towards the center. So on these larger areas here, you can go up a little higher. And then we're going to take the YR04 and fill in that whole part of the flower from the inside. All right, oh, one more. All right, so I'll go ahead and finish coloring my flower, and then I'll show you how I put together my card. Okay, so I have my chrysanthemum that I colored in my Copics, and then I have a piece of cardstock that's 4 1/8 by 5 3/8, and I've stamped my chrysanthemum all over using my Distress Oxide Vintage Photo. So now I'm going to go ahead and die cut my images. Okay, so I decided where I wanted to put my flower onto my pre-stamped Vintage Photo background that I made. So I went ahead and die cut one of the chrysanthemums right in the middle right there. And then I went ahead and die cut the chrysanthemum that we colored. And then I cut out one of the chrysanthemums onto some fun foam. So now I'm going to go ahead and piece this all together to create some faux masking. Okay, so here is my finished card. I went ahead and glued it all together, and you can see that that fun foam really raises up the flower, so that way it brings it up. And it's kind of like, you know, when you're going and masking an image and you have all of these flowers in the background, and we didn't have to do any fussy cutting or anything like that, and you still get that same look. So great little technique that I just figured out. So I hope you enjoyed this coloring tutorial for Ellen Hutson. Thank you so much for watching, and have a wonderful day.